Students, today we are going to start the next part, that is adaptive radiation. So what is adaptive radiation? Already we have discussed this adaptive radiation concept in the earlier part, that is Darwin's finches. But I have said that when Darwin went it on a sail and in the sail voyage HMS Beagle, then he found in Galapagos Island different varieties of big size in different birds, and that arose due to the shortage of the food, and that was the reason why the different birds can appear in the small geographical area in a natural condition, that is just shortage of food. So just see what is the definition of adaptive radiation. Adaptive radiation is a process of different species in a given geographical area starting from a point. That means it has to start from a original species. In the Galapagos Island, it was a grain-eating or seed-eating bird, and radiate to the other areas of geography is called adaptive radiation. And when it start to deviate from that original species into different geographical area due to any of the conditions, then this is called as adaptive radiation. So we can see a number of examples of adaptive radiation. This adaptive radiation can cause due to the natural calamities like the food, air, water, then space, all of them that can be a cause or reason for adaptive radiation. So just see for the adaptive radiation, we can see the first example, that is Darwin's finches. It has to arise from a given geographical area, right? So in that Galapagos Island, what we have seen, a grain eating bird. So in that region, when there was a shortage of food, then after that, from this grain eating bird, it starts to deviate, it starts to radiate. So that's why it is called as adaptive radiation. It has to adapt in a changed environment. So that's why it formed the different varieties like the fish eating, cactus eating, fruit eating, worm eating type of birds. So what is that? This is one example of adaptive radiation. Now the next example is Australian marsupial. Now you can see in Australia, which is separated from the mainland, and in Australia one typical type of mammal, that was marsupial mammal, arise. And from the primitive marsupial mammal, we can see in Australia there are more than hundreds of varieties of marsupials are available. Like the marsupials, some of the marsupials are like koala, bandicoot, kangaroo, tiger cat, then wolf, then numbat, then marsupial mouse, spotted cascas, Tasmanian tiger cat, sugar glider. What are they? They are all the different varieties of marsupials. They are arising from a primitive marsupial in Australia. So this is the Australia, this is one geographical area, and they have to adapt with a different habitat and different food habit. So that's why they started to deviate from each other and form a number of species. So this Australian marsupial, this is an example of what type of evolution? This is an example of divergent evolution. Okay, remember, it is the example, both the Australian marsupial and Darwin's finches, that example of divergent evolution. Okay. Then after that, just see another example, which is also a case of adaptive radiation, but it's different from the earlier two. What are they? What is that? That is the placental mammals. See, the placental mammals, they're different from the Australian mammals, right? Australian marsupial mammals. So in Australia, both these placental mammals and Australian mammals, marsupials, they live together, and due to living in the same ecological niche, so remember this point, they're living in the same ecological niche. That's why the same type of environmental condition was present, same type of natural conditions were there, and because of that they start to look similar morphologically, structurally also they look very much similar to each other. Why this had happened? That reason was the habitat, that means they're living in the same habitat, so that's why they started to look same, though they are different species originally. Placental mammals, they have placenta, and Australian marsupials which don't have the placenta, so they're completely two different orders in the class Mammalia. As they're living in the same geographical area, in the same ecological niche, what had happened to them? They started to look same. Some of the examples are like mole and marsupial mole, then anteater, nambat, mouse, marsupial mouse, then lemur, spotted cascus, bobcat, Tasmanian tiger cat. All of them, they are examples of placental mammal and marsupial mammal. Both of them, they are completely different originally, but as they're living in the same ecological niche, that's why they start to structurally become same, and that's the reason that's actually a condition of what type of evolution now. This is called as the convergent evolution. Okay, so remember, this is the example of convergent evolution, and Australian marsupial and Darwin, they are the example of divergent evolution. I hope you understand. This is the adaptive radiation. Let's just move to the next part. Now, after that, see the theories of biological evolution. There are three different theories put forward by the scientists Lamarck, Darwin, and Hugo de Vries. They said the origin and evolution of species. So, there are three theories put forward by the different scientists. The first theory is Lamarck's theory. The Lamarck's theory is also known as the theory of inheritance of acquired characters or use and disuse of organs. So according to him, it is said that if an organ is used continuously in organism's lifetime, this changes pass on to the next generation, and the next generation have or develop some already developed characters which is already occurred or had developed in their parents. So this theory that was given some examples, and Lamarck had given an example of giraffe. Earlier, giraffe was a small herbivore. It started to graze the herbs present in the, or they're eating the grasses. Whenever the condition was favorable, the population was increased, and that's why all the herbivores start to take the grass around it. Whenever the grazing failed, they start to decrease its food sources. Then the grazing animal, that donkey like or having a small length of the herbivorous animals, they stretch on the neck and the forelimbs. Gradually the necks start to get longer and the forelimbs also get longer, and the longer neck and the longer forelimbs, they had developed in the organism, and their offspring had developed with already a longer neck and already a longer forelimbs. So this is the example of use and disuse of organs. If an organ is used continuously, that organ will be inherited. And also he had said that it is also a case of inheritance of acquired characters. The characters acquired by one organism in its lifetime, that organ will be transmitted. That organ means the character will be transmitted and that organ will be developed. So this theory was expressed as the theory of inheritance of acquired characters, and he published Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck. He published his theory in a book. That book was Philosophy Zoologique. In his book, he explained the theory of inheritance of acquired character or use and disuse of organ with the example of giraffe. But this theory faced a number of criticism. What are the criticism? That if we use an organ, that organ can never pass on to the next, or that characteristics will never pass to the next generation. The athlete's body, the muscles they develop in their lifetime, or a bodybuilder, they're developing the muscles in its workout, or they used to go to the gym and that's why they develop the muscles. But the athlete's baby do not born with already developed muscles. Next one, another example I can give you, that is the already we in Indian girls, we see the girls used to pierce their ear and nose, but no girl, Indian girl, is born with already pierced ear or already pierced nose. Or if I can give another example, that is the eye. We use the eye continuously for the reading purpose or watching purpose. We use the organ, that is eye. But it is not happening that the power of eye increases, rather it decreases, right? So what is it, that if we use an organ, that organ will not going to be a permanent character, which will not pass to the next generation, right? So this is a very important theory, though it is discarded, but then also we have to know, because this is the first theory on biological evolution. Next one, this theory is called as the Darwin's theory. Darwin's theory is also called as the theory of natural selection. What he said, that all of the organisms have its inherent capacity to reproduce. Whenever a species gets its favorable condition, the species will reproduce and the population of that species will increase. But what happened always, nature keeps a control on the species by limiting the different sources like food, air, water, shelter, etc. And ultimately, due to the control of the nature, eventually the population of the species remain constant. So what is that? That is called as a natural selection. So he had given the example of Galapagos Island, and after that he got the theory, and got the theory means he discovered and he put forward this theory. This theory is called as natural selection. He also said about variation. He also understood that yes, in the population some changes occur, and that is called as the variation. He said it as variation. So according to his concept of variation, he said that these variations are small in a population, and it also always have a direction. That means it is unidirectional. The variation process is directional, and the evolution which is occurring, and we have to explain the process of evolution. So he said that evolution is a slow and gradual process, right? So according to him, this is the theory. Next theory, after many years, the last theory, which is now accepted theory, that is called as the mutation theory, that is given by a scientist. The scientist was Hugo de Vries, while working on a plant, that is Oenothera lamarckiana or evening primrose. So while working on the plant species, that is evening primrose or Oenothera lamarckiana, he said that mutation occurs suddenly in a species, and evolution that is occurring, evolution is actually not a slow process. Suddenly it occurs. It do not have any direction. So it completely it completely disproved the theory of variation or mutation of Darwin. So that's why I have given the comparative study of Hugo de Vries mutation and Darwin's variation. So what are those two concepts of Hugo de Vries mutation theory and Darwin's theory of variation? So just see, in case of Darwin, Darwin said that the variations are small, while according to Hugo de Vries, his concept of mutation, he said that mutation is large. Next one, Darwin's variation is always having a direction. It occurs in a directional way. And in case of Rice, he said that mutation is a random process which do not have any direction. It can occur in any direction. Next one, Darwin says that evolution is a slow process and a gradual process, while Hugo de Vries said that mutation are sudden. That this is not a slow process. Suddenly it can occur, and it is and spontaneous. It is sudden and spontaneous. A single step large mutation can result into a new species, right? So suddenly some changes can occur in the germplasm, and after that it is said that evolution suddenly occurs and species arise. So according to Hugo de Vries, mutation process is sudden, which do not have direction. But according to Darwin, the process is directional. That means it has a definite direction. And in case of Darwin, he said that the evolution process is a slow and gradual process, while Hugo de Vries said that evolution, this is actually occurs suddenly, randomly, and single step, a large mutation can result in new species. So after that, let's just move to the Hardy-Weinberg principle. After that, let's just move to the next part, that is the actually one principle that is called as Hardy-Weinberg principle. Z.H. Hardy and W. Weinberg, they propose a theory that is also called as a theory of genetic equilibrium. According to this theory, the genetic equilibrium is always maintained by a population if the evolutionary factors like mutation, immigration, emigration, recombination, this do not occur, sudden deaths do not occur, then the allelic frequencies will always be maintained, or the population will try to maintain a genetic equilibrium. So here you just see the population is said to be in genetic equilibrium if it is not undergoing any evolutionary change. So this is the concept of the theory, and this is a mathematical expression. What is that? If we see the two alleles, if we take two alleles, capital A and small a. Capital A, this is one allele that frequency of capital A is called as, it is taking here as p square, and the frequency of small a allele is q square. So the possibility of the A allele in a chromosome is p square, and the possibility of small a to come in the chromosome is q square. And then we have to see that if it is a hybrid, then how many times, or what should be the frequency of that hybrid allele to come in the chromosome, that is twice pq. What Hardy-Weinberg principle states that the frequencies of all the alleles to come in the chromosome is 1, or it will try to always maintain constant. Okay, so that's why, see what he had said, or what both these two scientists have said, that the frequencies of all the alleles are equal to, or sum total of all the frequencies of the alleles is 1. Okay, so the mathematical expression for the Hardy-Weinberg principle is p square plus twice pq plus q square is 1. It can be also said as p plus q whole square is equal to 1. This is a binomial expression. Just remember one thing, that how many alleles we have now, capital A and small a. The frequencies of the A allele to come, of A allele to come in the chromosome is p square, and small a allele to come in the chromosome is q square, and the frequency of the heterozygous, or we can say the hybrid, that is capital A small a allele to come in the chromosome is twice pq. And what he says, that the allelic frequencies, all of them, see the sum total of all the allelic frequencies is 1. So sum total of all the allelic frequencies is equal to 1, or what we can say, that p plus q whole square is equal to 1. So this way we have completed the Hardy-Weinberg principle. I hope you understand. From this, the mathematical things will not at all come. Just you have to remember the definition, and sometime question may come. So we'll see the mathematical expressions, some problems later on. So this is all about the Hardy-Weinberg principle. I hope you understand. Thank you.